Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And today we have some homegrown horrors for you folks.
Indeed we do. I'm pretty excited. Homegrown horrors are the stories that you wonderful listeners and viewers have sent our way. They can be supernatural, spiritual, creepy, coincidental, sometimes true crime, sometimes cryptid related, sometimes extraterrestrial in nature. Robin, if someone had a story like that, where could they send it?
You can send it to our email, storytime@scariest.com. You can also go to our website, which happens to be scariest.com. Wouldn't you know? And there's a contact us page. You just fill out that fun stuff and it gets emailed to us that way.
Indeed. So we're going to be reading 4 of those homegrown horrors tonight. Pretty excited to get to it. I would like to give a shout out to the folks that are watching us live really fast. Thank you so much. A lot of you folks actually wound up showing up for Sunday's cooking stream, which was super fun. We referenced that on Tuesday's show. I want to bring up, we normally stream on Saturdays as well. We do a little bit of video gaming. We will not be doing that this Saturday, so I'm sorry to break all the hearts out there, folks who want us to continue playing Resident Evil 8. But we won't be doing that, and Robin will tell you why.
Oh, so this week we won't be playing because we'll be in California for a sales event. If you folks want to see us, I guess, if you're in the LA area, we'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the Garden Walk.
Indeed. Yeah. So we will be having our first convention in, 14, 15 months?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a while.
Since last February.
It's been a while, so we're excited to do it. And if any of you are in the neighborhood, please stop by. We would love to see you. So, all right. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first.
All right.
Surprise me.
They're
all surprises. I haven't read any of them, but you know.
I was told they're good, too.
Oh, cool.
Also, you'll be reading one from your aunt this show.
Oh, cool. Nice.
So.
Nice.
All right. So I'm going to start out with one that subject is you're going to need a lot of salt grains for this one. So everyone get your margaritas ready and make sure that the rim is extra salty. And it starts out like this. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Trey. I sent the story about my friend Jamie when he was younger and heard the creepy girl singing in the attic. I have a long story today, but I'm going to add a little backstory that all leads up to our main event. I used to live on about 15 acres in Brooksville, Florida. My bedroom was the garage, and it wasn't a one-door garage. No, it had 2 side garage doors and 1 big one. So 4 walls, and 3 of them had garage doors.
That is interesting.
It is indeed. It's a strange layout, I will say.
Yeah.
Now, some would think that's cool, but I always felt uneasy in there, especially at night. It was all the windows. It bothered me, which might be normal, where it might be a normal, reasonable feeling, but I always felt like I was being stared at. Now, I used to have a front door that had a huge window on it, and I absolutely hated it because it looked into my living room, and my apartment was really small. It was just living room, bedroom, and kitchen. So if I wanted to hang out in my living room, I would literally take a towel and I would hang it on my door because I did not want that thing there until I finally found something to put over the glass that made it like opaque or whatever so you couldn't see through it. Mm-hmm. It drove me crazy when I moved in because I also had like an entryway and my door was directly next to my neighbor's door. So anytime he came home, he could just be like, I wonder what Adam's up to. And if I was in my living room, he would see everything I was up to. So I was just like, no privacy here. This can't do. So I totally understand the feeling of like having too many entryways into your place and feeling like you're being stared at.
Cool.
The email continues. My parents would go out of town for weeks at a time, and those were the worst nights. I'd get so uneasy I'd end up sleeping with every light in the house on, all doors shut and locked, and my dog, who wasn't supposed to be inside, would be at the foot of my bed.
I can understand that fear. Like when we're all alone, like even if just people are at work or they're out shopping or whatever, and I'm alone, it doesn't matter if it's nighttime or daytime. I'm like, this is weird. Why am I alone? Everything is just...
It's too quiet.
It's too quiet.
Yeah, I totally understand it too. It would always sound like the TV in my parents' room was on, but every time I go to check, it was off. I would usually end up staying at a friend's house when my parents were gone for obvious reasons. The creepiest moment was when my friends would start sleeping over and they'd ask me individually, do you ever feel like you're being stared at in here?
That's a big nope.
It's like it's confirmed that your room is really creepy.
That other people feel exactly how you feel.
To add a little more gas to this fire, I used to sleepwalk. I knew I slept-walked and talked. Usually, I'd wake back up in bed or just somewhere in my room, but there were a few times I woke up in some strange places. Now, nothing too crazy, just my fence line. That's kind of fucking creepy. That's outside. So... Now, we had fencing around 5 of our 15 acres, and the fence line I'd wake up at was about 300 feet from our door. Now, I'd usually just assume sleepwalk, whatever. I didn't think too much of it. I've woken up in stranger places. Now begins our story. Now, I'm going to add there was alcohol involved. Okay, that's a lot of grains of salt we're adding onto this at this point.
Yeah.
But no one was drunk for this. We had an old trailer on the back half of the property. It was rotten and falling apart, so we had it bulldozed and we were burning the debris. I was in charge of keeping an eye on it while it was burning, so I invited some buddies over. At the start of the night, there were 6 of us, but 1 went home and 1 went to bed in the house. The remaining 4 of us were sitting around this fire, just bullshitting about high school. We were all juniors and just having a good time. Around 9:30 p.m., one of us noticed what looked like a phone light. So like the light that you'd see emitting from your phone, or maybe the back of it, maybe the flashlight on your phone.
Just like a little glow.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Okay.
Emitting from the woods. We all looked and saw it. So we were immediately like, who's on the property? What the fuck? But we're a bunch of cocky teenagers, so we all go to investigate and start off towards the light. As we enter the woods, which I know pretty well, the light disappears, so we run towards where it was. We have our flashlights out and find nothing at first. Then we see on the ground what looks like dip spit, and it kind of trails. So for those of you unfamiliar with what dip spit is,
it's like when you chew tobacco.
Chewing tobacco, like you're not supposed to swallow the juices, you're supposed to spit it out, which is why people always have
swallow it.
It's just bad for you. You probably wind up throwing up. And like that's why people always carry around like an empty soda bottle they call their spitter. Like if you ever watch Letterkenny, it's in the first episode.
Yeah.
They're dipping, and then they never do that again. They make them like the pure kids who don't like do any of they're like, smokes are for jokes, bud, and they're dipping in the first episode. Anyways, let's keep moving forward. So they find a trail of dip spit. We slowly follow this trail of what we thought was dip spit, and it gets bigger and bigger until it looks like a fucking drool puddle about a foot around on the ground. At this point, I'm like, yeah, noping the fuck out, and we head back to the fire.
Could it be oil? Because it's dark, right?
Maybe. I would gather some up as a sample and then throw it in the fire and see if it's flammable. Now we are sitting back at the fire.
But if it is spit, you don't want to touch it. It's gross.
I mean, it's gross no matter what.
Okay.
2 of my buddies decide they want to walk the perimeter and head off. I watch them disappear into the woods and follow their flashlight with my eyes. My buddy next to me was telling me 2 short, creepy stories he had when their light disappeared, and then seconds later they came walking out of a completely different point in the woods. So they're following them off in the woods, like where their light is, and then all of a sudden the light goes off, and they're in a completely different section of the woods.
Okay.
That made no sense to me at all. I asked them why they turned their lights off, and they said they never turned them on. They then assured me that they had been gone for at least a half an hour, but I kept telling them no, it had only been like 5 minutes. My buddy next to me even showed them the time, which confused them and gave them goosebumps. Then in unison, we all looked back to the woods and we saw the light again, but it's moving from about 6 feet off the ground to around 16 or 15 feet up, back and forth through the woods.
When you think about like that, it looks like a glow coming from a phone, right? I'm imagining like a will-o-wisp type thing.
Yeah, now that it's floating,
yes.
I especially get that feeling. So we muster up some courage and we all go back in the woods, now armed with knives and shovels.
That'll do it.
Now, I don't know if you've ever been hunting, but there's a feeling you get when you're hunting like you're in charge and you have all the cards. That's how we felt the first time we went in. Well, there's also another feeling that's the opposite, the feeling of being hunted. And that's what we all felt this time. Like we were being watched from a distance, like something was stalking us. We have our backs to each other and we are inching our way further and further in. Everything had gone quiet. Here's the part that I won't ever forget. So my woods are not super dense, and they're mainly sand pine trees. Tall, not a lot of branches, about 40 feet up, with a mix of oak, so it's a little dense, but you can clearly see the sky. If you look in certain directions, you can make out porch lights of my house and certain neighbors, and you should definitely see the big fire we're having. Now, why the lesson on my tree types? Well, guess what we weren't seeing anymore? Well, for a start, the fire was not visible. The lights of my house were not visible. The sky above looked pitch black. Oh, and my woods don't look like my woods. It looked much denser. It looked like a weird Georgia pine forest with a low canopy, and it's so dense it felt difficult to move.
So they're getting too deep into the woods.
He's just saying, like, as soon as they went in there, it just felt completely different than his woods, and they couldn't see any of the lights, which they normally would be able to see from any point in the woods. We kept moving forward, not sure where we were anymore, feeling like we were being hunted, when suddenly there was a loud cracking noise as something massive fell out of the top of a tree and broke branches on the way down. It just hit me. It's the fucking predator. Why didn't I figure this out sooner? We all jump and shine our lights at the direction of the noise and see nothing, and somehow move towards that direction. We find what we think is a trail and follow it until we get a weird footprint. It was nothing like I had ever seen before.
It's Bigfoot.
Though it's got 3 hand-sized toe prints, no claw indents, just toe imprints, and 1 big center foot imprint. So if it's Bigfoot, it's a 3-toed Bigfoot, is what he's saying. I don't know the amount of toes on a predator foot. I think it's 5, though.
Okay.
It looks stamped into the dirt.
Well, no, it doesn't have any toe prints because it's wearing shoes.
The predator?
Yeah.
I mean, if the predator's getting down, the predator's taking off like all that shit except its fishnet thing, so its nipples show through, and then like short shorts. That's how it falls.
Oh, I gotta watch that movie again because I want to see some predator nips.
I don't think you actually do see this.
Okay.
All right, I'll keep going forward. He says it looked like it was stamped in the dirt. We were like, what the fuck? We moved further forward, and in the dirt, rather than the same footprint, was a toddler-sized human footprint, also perfectly stamped in the dirt. At this point, well, everyone knows that's where babies come from. They fall from the sky, and they're super old, and they're weird creatures, and they slowly turn into children. At this point, I had had enough, and was on full retreat mode. It's a good day to retreat, and the guys were with me. We attempted to walk back the direction we had come, completely on edge, when the woods looked like they had changed and it looked familiar again, and we saw the fire and bolted back into the clearing.
So it's like a portal type thing that they went through, maybe.
A little bit. It kind of sounds like that. We checked our phones and 4 hours had passed. It was 3 a.m. None of us slept or even talked. We just sat with our backs towards my house, facing towards the fire and the woods until the sun rose high. We all decided to go investigate with the sun up. The only thing we found out in those woods was my buddy's right boot print, and it looked like he was hopping on that foot in circles around the woods.
What?
It was just his right boot print facing different directions randomly throughout the woods.
I figured it out. It's a hoot hoot.
We couldn't find anything else. We all walked out of the woods and went inside and passed out. We still have no idea what the fuck happened that night and if we were tripping balls from trailer fumes or what. We don't talk about it often. The only thing we all agree on is we hope those woods fucking catch fire and burn down because fuck that. After that night, we still felt like we were being watched in my room and outside. I currently add that as one of the reasons I won't sleep on that property anymore. So yeah, take your salt block and lick it because we were probably tripping balls or something, but that's my creepiest story. Side note, my town is apparently known for UFO sightings, which is creepy. But then again, doesn't every place have something creepy about it? I wonder if a UFO was abducting something and it like turned off the beam and it fell. And it was
Maybe.
like, fuck this, and it
You
just
never
bailed.
know.
I have a few more stories, but they're less creepy and more trippy. What the fuck just happened type stories. Yes, you can share this on the podcast. I apologize for my horrid grammar, though. I hope you two have a good night and keep on creeping on. Unless some shit like this happens, then do what I should do and light that place on fire and move states. That is hilarious.
I mean, I can totally see I'm moving out of the state, even. I just want to get far away from these woods as possible. I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that sounds horrifying.
Yep.
I will say also shout out to Spooky Mom, because if there was bad grammar in that, she adjusted pretty much everything so that it was totally fine. So.
And you know what this story really reminds me of is that pasta time, or not pasta time, but creepy pasta period, about the cabin, right? This person gets to the cabin and it looks like there's paintings on the walls.
Oh, yeah.
But it's actually faces looking in through the windows.
That feeling of being watched.
Yes.
It definitely gave off that vibe, for sure.
Totally those vibes. And if you folks didn't know, Hoot Hoot is a Pokemon that has 3 toes.
That's why I just kept going.
3 toes and 1 foot, right? It has it has 3 toes in the front and 1 in the back. But I just imagine it as, the 1 footprint with the toes.
I can't speak to how many feet Hoot Hoot has, but that sounds right. So I'll trust you, Pokemon.
It has 2 feet, but when you see it standing there, it's
you only
only
see
1.
The 1?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You have to hit it with one of them apples in Pokemon Snap to get it to show the other foot.
There you go. Pro tips from Robin. Thank you so much for sending that in one last time.
Alrighty. This next story is from Katie, and it says we can read it on the podcast, so we're gonna. Alright. So it goes, hello, Adam, Robin, Spooky Mom, and Spooky Friends.
Hello.
Hello.
And everyone out there yell hello as loud as you can like a lunatic.
And you have to say it like U2, where it's like, hello. Wait, is that U2?
That's U2. I'm
okay,
pretty
cool.
sure.
Long-time listener, first-time emailer. I've actually been meaning to write in for a few months now, but every time I remember, it's when I listen to the podcast and then never after that. But this time, I decided to finally do it. Not about what I've been meaning to talk about. So it's like they have this idea that they want to tell us, but they don't ever remember when they have the opportunity to. And then this time that they have the opportunity to, they're like, no, this is about something different though, so we'll get into it. This is about a dream I had the night prior. One that I don't believe I've ever had before. I was in that state where you're merely dozing off before you go to sleep, the just resting my eyes kind of dozing. I hadn't even turned my light off or plugged my phone in yet. For context, I work at a family-owned greenhouse that's been around for almost a century. That is nuts. And we open that's not in the story, that's just my commentary. And we open on the 1st of May every year. Wow, I didn't know that so this greenhouse is closed, probably to, I don't know, plant certain things, and then they open on the 1st of May. That's really cool. I've been there for a few years now, and right now it's the busy time, as we are planting seeds for flowers and vegetables. In my dream, I was getting set up to plant some seeds in starter trays that have many little cells, so you can plant a whole bunch of seeds and then transplant them when they get to a certain size. It all depends on how you want to say transplant, I suppose. It was late at night, and the sun had already set and was long gone. It was quiet, as it should be, since I was the only one there. The building I was in was small, feeling even smaller when it was being packed with already well-along plants surrounding me. I began my task in the peaceful quiet of the night. Some time had passed, and as I was opening a new pack of seeds and starting a new tray, an almost sixth sense made me stop and go still. That's when 3 men walked into the room. Remember, this is a dream. So 3 men walked into the room I was working in. As they walked in, they made hardly a sound and were carefully and cautiously looking around. I froze, hoping they wouldn't see me off in the corner of the room. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be, as one of the men happened to do a double take back at me and tapped the guy in front of him to alert him of my presence. The guy tried to make a calm face and started to talk to me, while the other 2 had stopped and were moving in a restless manner. Fear and dread had filled my stomach. As it was, I've always been shy around strangers, and it's even more so when it happens in a place where you feel safe and alone. Even though this was a place where it wasn't uncommon for people to pop in from time to time. But it was also late at night. Oh, hello there. Sorry, I didn't mean to...
Is this General Kenobi that you're talking to?
Sorry,
hello there.
I didn't mean to startle you. We're just looking around at all the plants. Nice place you've got here. That's a quick quote from the guy that is talking to her. As he talked, one man had moved to stand in front of the only exit in the room, and the other stayed where he was, while the man who spoke slowly crept closer to me, like you would an animal that you didn't want to startle. In that moment, the fear and absolute dread about what was about to possibly happen forced me from my dream. It was so jarring that it took me a solid minute to realize that I was no longer in that situation. But in my bed, in my home, the bedside light still on and my earbuds still in. So they have this really intense dream, they just put their head down just to get ready for bed, right? And then they slip into this dream and they wake up, they're like, what the fuck? And it's like barely any time has passed and you just wake up into this, how things were when you just closed your eyes, you know?
Right.
Now here's the thing though. I've had a fair share of vivid dreams. I've had dreams that have spanned over hours and days while in the dream. I have never had that. Mine are always just maybe a couple hours, but never days. Which is so intense that you have dreams that last days. It's crazy. Dreams where I've been both the main person that is and isn't me. Ones where I've been out of body and watching like you would a movie, and sometimes a combination of those things. I rarely lucid dream, though I've had some that were kind of lucid, like acknowledging that this is a dream, but then falling back into being blissfully unaware of what that means. Aside from the tangible fear and dread I felt in the dream, there's one other thing that truly unsettled me. Their faces. I saw their faces and realized that I didn't know them. Usually the only time I recognize the faces of those around me in my dreams is if I've seen them before. Family, friends, celebrities, well-known people like that, where you see them all the time and your brain just knows that it's them. So a lot of the time in my dreams, when it's not a person I know, their face tends to blur a little when I look directly at them. In this particular dream, I was looking at 3 men full in the face and saw the details of them. And the disturbing realization after I woke up that I had absolutely no idea who they were. They were complete strangers. So this person Katie normally doesn't recognize, if she doesn't know the people, she can't actually see their face. She can't recognize specifics of the face. But this time in the dream,
she could.
So
but it's someone that she doesn't recognize in real life.
But maybe
she can remember their faces, so that's what's creepy to her.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It took me a few minutes afterwards to calm down, but I was scared to go back to sleep. I didn't want to go back to whatever that dream was. I do that all the time. If I wake up from a scary dream, I try to stay awake and not go back to sleep right away because I'm afraid of falling back into it. But since I had a long day of work the next day, you can bet I wasn't staying up just to be utterly exhausted and miserable from this nightmare. So I picked up my phone, found something nice to watch for a few minutes, and then fell asleep with the lights still on to a dreamless rest of the night. Thank you for reading my story about this crazy, creepy dream I had. Sorry, but not sorry for how long this ended up being. I'll get around to writing about those other aforementioned things I mentioned.
Redundant.
Yes, redundant. At the start when I get the chance. One of them is kind of a doozy, and I'm still not sure how I want to write it out and what details I want to include, as it is an incredibly sensitive matter. Keep on creeping on, and goodbye for now. Oyster Cracker signing off. LOL. Thank you so much for sending that in, Lady Oyster Cracker.
Indeed. That was pretty good. I will say I can always see people's faces in my dreams, so it's not something that would really scare me too much.
I think when I see people in my dreams that I don't necessarily know, I think it's just someone I walked past on the street.
Your brain is like, let's save that face for later.
Yes, or like someone I've seen in a movie or something like that that's not the main character, you know, it's just the side character that you don't really pay attention to.
Piece.
It's just like your brain is taking things you've seen and putting them, that's why they're in your subconscious, right? Last night I had a dream that you were a fucking airplane pilot. It was sweet. I was just like, dang, that's so cool.
Come fly with me.
And then I woke up, I was like, no, that'd be so cool if he was an actual pilot.
No, he's such a disappointment again.
Wouldn't it be so cool, though, to be able to just fly places?
Yes, it would be cool if I was a pilot instead of what I am, so thank you. I had a dream that you were a whore! Wouldn't it be cool if you weren't that? I really did, too. It was a really bad dream.
It was funny because, in this dream, I had, like, the stupid family membership card that showed that you're a pilot and that we could, like, get on flight. It was really cool. Man, I wish I knew someone who's, like, a flight attendant or a pilot or something. Well, technically, we do know someone who's a pilot, but.
We do.
All right. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sending that in and listening to Robin's dreams about what she wishes I was. All right. So before we move into our next story, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. And we're back. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move into my second and the third overall story of the show. And this one's subject is a particularly real feeling weird dream. So this is like two dreams in a row. Also, connection between my first one and your first one was like, I had something about the forest. Yours was about a greenhouse. So I thought that was super interesting. So it starts out like this. Hello, Adam Robin.
Hello.
Hello. My older brother, Trey, has recently suggested to me that I listen to your guys' podcast on Spotify, and boy, am I glad that he did. I've only been listening for about a week or so, but you guys have a really cool sense of humor, and the topics you talk about are always intriguing.
Aw, thank you.
Last night I had a dream about some infectious organism that was somehow conceived in my room. I thought it was going to say womb. I'm relieved it said room. It was blue opaque goo with consciousness and no body parts, though it could form single limbs. It had quickly intrigued people, in parentheses, that were in my house for some reasons, you know how dreams can be, and anybody that touched it got sick for a short amount of time and then turned it into the very same goo. If you know what the flood from Halo is, it's like that, but blue and kid-friendly. Luckily, I did not touch it because I found it very unsmart to touch some goo that seemed to have a mind of its own. Soon enough, there were 10 plus blue gooey life forms, so I had to imprison them in my walk-in closet that for some reason was now an entire cell block. It's sort of that thing when you're dreaming that whatever purpose you're going to use something for, it suddenly like transforms into that, you know? So because you're going to imprison them in your closet, all of a sudden your closet turns into like a prison or a cell.
All right.
It says, I locked the suckers up because for some reason they were unable to go through bars. Now here's where the detail...
goo can't go through bars?
Hey, it's the rules. Now here's where the detail about them being able to form limbs gets a little weird. I had one person that was supposed to rotate shifts being a prison guard with me.
Okay.
And the very first cell was the goo form of that person guard's former best friend. I had told the goo to try to resemble some form of its past self to comfort the guard, so he formed a couple of identical limbs to the past human. The prison guard walked in, emotional about his friend turning into goo, and this goddamn goo shakes his hand. So now this guard is doomed because my stupid ass for some reason had trust in this goo life form to be civil. I exit my closet for some space and begin to have a breakdown, thinking very specifically to myself, and this isn't even a dream.
Oh my god.
This is all happening, and I'm the one that has to be responsible and take charge. Very shortly after, my mom wakes me up, and I immediately tell her about the dream, and she suggested that I write it down somewhere, so I thought I'd share the story with you guys. Anyway, that is all. Have a good one, Lucas. Well, that was definitely weird. So,
I've never had, like sci-fi dreams. Mine are always very straightforward. Like I told you in one of the past episodes probably, that I had a dream that my friend and I were FBI agents. You know what I mean? I've had those types of dreams, or there's a road back on the island where I'm from that, kind of curves around the island, but it's on the side of a cliff. And I've had dreams / nightmares where I fly out of a car while driving on this. Too. Yeah. Yeah. So I have those types of dreams. I've never had a weird sci-fi one, and I watch a lot of Doctor Who. So the fact that I have never had a weird sci-fi dream where something like that happens is strange.
I also think that, like, I've had the infectious disease dream for sure. Yeah, where like something's like killing people, or so like some sort of sickness is being passed around. Shockingly, I have not had that dream since COVID started, because it's kind of like something in my brain during like the normal day. So maybe I'm taking a break from it. But I've had dreams similar to that. It just hasn't been like a sentient flubber-like creature. So either way, thank you for sending that in. Yeah. We appreciate it.
Hopefully you don't have any more super creepy dreams.
Indeed.
All right, so I'm going to head in to the last story of the episode, and this is from Angela, or 911 Girl, in our Twitch chat, if you folks have ever seen her around before. The subject of this is premonition, ? And it begins, "Hello, Robin, Adam, and spooky friends."
Hello.
Hello.
Everyone yell hello.
Why do you say that like Eeyore?
Do I say it like Eeyore?
Everyone say hello.
Didn't know I was saying it like Eeyore. That's my bad.
This happened almost 40 years ago, so this is my best recollection. I have a lot of family who live on the reservation in Yuma, Arizona. It has developed a lot over the years, but when this incident occurred, I remember it as only a few houses spread out down a dirt road off of the main highway. My sister and nephew, who was 7 or 8 years old at the time, lived all the way at the end of the dirt road. One day, my nephew started going to different relatives' houses along the dirt road, telling them he was going home today. As you can imagine, they were somewhat confused and either humored him or told him to actually go home. I have an uncle who lives on the main road, maybe 30 feet from the dirt road. I'll insert a trigger warning here.
Oh, no.
No. Oof. No. We think my nephew was on his way there when he was hit and killed by a drunk driver along the main road. That is
horrible.
Horrifying. I was only 3 or 4 years older than him at the time, so I didn't process it like the adults did. I remember him wondering if he knew he was going to heaven that day. Another thing I do remember, and that angered me, was the drunk driver coming to my sister's house days later to offer her $100.
Wow. That'll take care of it.
What a piece of trash, dude. What a piece of freaking trash. As if his life was only worth that much. Unfortunately, I don't remember if the drunk driver served any jail time or what exactly happened to him. Sorry it took me so long to write this, and for my horrible grammar, it was totally fine. I'm so proud of you two for this podcast. Oh, I love you. And for inspiring and supporting this community the way that you do. Keep on creeping on your favorite Aunt Angela. Oh, I'm gonna cry. That is awful.
I didn't know that, yeah.
I had no idea that happened.
That's so sad. I can't imagine someone showing up and trying to offer them $100.
Shit like that happens every day.
That's so, I mean, I know that shit like that happens, but
it's terrifying.
The idea that someone would show up afterwards and be like, here's $100, everything's okay now, right? Like, that's sickening.
I know you don't watch a lot of Korean drama, but it happens all the time in Korean drama where someone dies and then people come to the freaking funeral and are like, here's some cash. You know what I mean?
But are they the person that's responsible trying to avoid litigation or blame?
It's always someone trying to avoid any lawyers getting involved or anything like that. They're like, just like take the cash and be done with it. $100 though for someone's life is such a, even 30 years
it's so
or
insulting.
40 years ago.
It's so disgusting.
Yeah, it's absolutely shitty. People are awful. And I just don't like them. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing such an intimate story with us. And that person hopefully rots in hell.
Indeed. So thank you everyone who listened tonight. Thank you everyone who watched live. And most importantly, thank you to everyone who sent in your stories. Sometimes the stories are kind of kooky and fun, and sometimes they're really heartfelt. And it's really nice of the folks that decide that they're going to reach out and share that sort of stuff with us.
Especially when it's really personal.
Yeah, because there's folks out there who won't share a story and maybe not even talk about what's happening to them, to people in their lives, that can hear that through the show, and it offers so much help. So it really does mean a lot to us that you're willing to share it with us, and to so many folks out there that you may never meet, that it really does help. So if you have a story you would like to share with us, regardless of the kind of story it is, please email storytime@scarish.com. You can also go to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. That form comes directly to us, and you can hit us up on any of our social medias. Twitter is @ScarishPod, Instagram is @ScarishPodcast, and Facebook is facebook.com/ScarishPodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1 a do. At $1, you get ad-free episodes. Can't go wrong with ad-free. And there's also physical merch tiers, stuff like that are on there that you guys can check out. Also, if you go to our website, there's links to our Ko-fi and our Patreon from there. And, if you're not into the monthly donations, you can go to our Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. All your donations go to helping us upgrade our studio setup and keep us going. It pays for hosting fees. It pays for a lot of things that we need to, even upload all of these things, right? So thank you so much for everyone for supporting us and making this dream a reality.
Indeed. So I think that's just about everything I have for this episode of Storytime. So Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.